Welcome back to One Comic Book a Day, where we're covering Adventure Comics 136. My pal Superboy. God, how often I actually want to say action comics instead of adventure comics. This is a fine story. It's perfectly fine. I'm going to complain about a few things that are not really all that pertinent. I'm going to be a little more easier on this comic for problems that I feel that a children's comic in the 1940s are ill equipped to talk about. Though I'm going to just sort of lament how much further we could have gone and done something with the idea. So here, it's a simple idea. Kid has been wrongfully sent to juvie. Actually, no, that's too severe of a critique. The comic in no way wants to critique any of this or wants you to think about it all that deeply. I want to, but you know what? It's unfair to this comic. And only here. I know I've done this before where I have been way more severe on the critique of a comic from the 1940s children. But once again, I feel like this comic is not equipped for this. So there's a kid named Joey Vance. Joey Vance was paid by some guys to honk a horn to let them know if anybody was coming. They were committing a crime that involved people getting hurt and, well, robbery. And Joey did what they said because he wanted the money. He had no understanding of what was happening and got sent to juvie for 2 years, which is ridiculous. He didn't understand what was happening. Like, even if you're going to punish him for that, and we can get into a huge argument if that deserved a punishment, 2 years is ridiculous. Also, and like I said, I'm going to get into my lament. If he hadn't been white, how much worse that would have been. But he's been sent to juvie for 2 years. Don't deal with the whole juvie thing. We don't even talk about how wrong this was to begin with, or look into why a kid should be sent to juvie for 2 years because he didn't understand what the hell was happening. Move off of that. Move off of that. We can talk about that. That's absolute bullcrap. And if we were writing that today, we might want to actually have something to say on that. But the comic takes place after the 2 years of him serving in juvie, which definitely makes it seem more like Clark is in high school. In fact, he's doing more stuff that you would see more in high school, like a track and field team. Joe is pretty good at those. No one wants to befriend Joe because he's a criminal. Joe can't even get a job. Joe's actually trying to earn money to pay back what he sort of cost. And even saying that is severe. He did not cost that store any money. That was not his fault in any way. He did not understand the situation. He was a patsy. But he wants to do good by giving the money back, which, I mean, it's a good idea, but I feel like the comic is really trying to make it seem like this is his role to do. He needs to do this when I don't think that's the case. I think it's kind of monstrous to think it is that case. But whatever, move on from that. But Joe has problems with getting a job because no one wants to hire a kid from juvie. Another thing we can look at is how hard it is once you have a conviction on you to get a job or find a place in society where you can continue to grow without having to go back to crime. If no one will hire you, then your options are diminished and it might lead to you going back to crime fairly easily. Another thing we can look at or critique in society, but we're not doing that. Though we're closer to that because, well, it is about Clark trying to be his friend and helping him out as society has sort of turned its back on him. Though by society, mostly one jerk in school who wants to get him convicted because he doesn't like the fact that he is convicted criminal, essentially going to school. Not the greatest representation of this. In fact, we could have probably done better with Clark helping him find a job or standing up for him in other much wider, much more society or community based activities. One kid trying to frame him for stealing some money just doesn't do it. There is some great stuff where Clark is, or Superboy, Clark as Superboy is helping him out, like something going wrong where he was going to be late for his parole officer meeting. So Clark stops the clock even though he would have been late. So it seems like he's not late. That's the kind of stuff I actually do like from Superboy. If he's not going to do anything, exciting in any way. Nothing he does here is all that exciting. It's just mostly helping the kid out. When it comes to Superboy or Superman doing things in comics, it's usually they come up with whatever the idea is and it doesn't feel like it fits very well or it's a build up intention. This one does a little bit better of that because he is trying to help the kids stay out. And it's not exactly the 3 feats where it felt like they came up with these 3 feats beforehand. It does seem like there is an escalation of things happening, and Superboy having to just deal with whatever they came up with as an escalation to the main story instead of working around the set pieces they came up with. I like that a lot more than the other. There's still a better way of doing it. I've been watching the Fleischer cartoons recently, and God, do I want to talk about like the third Fleischer cartoon because it hits everything I want of my complaint of him doing three things and how you do action in a Superman story. But we're not talking about that story. I might talk about it more when we actually get to something I can really complain about with his three feats. But man, is that story really good at dealing with Superman and his powers. Anyway, Superboy just kind of saves him from going back to Juvie and proves that he is a good person, and he stands with him and sees that he can turn his life around. Even though he doesn't have to turn his life around, he didn't do anything wrong to begin with. And that's maybe the big sin of the story, is it sort of acknowledges that maybe he had done something wrong to begin with, and I don't think he actually did anything wrong to begin with. But at least Superboy stands with him for being a good person, and hey, that's a pretty okay message of a Superboy story. I'll stand by that. Do good unto others, and every man can be a Superman. Remember? So I'll support the story with a bunch of caveats that of what I want a modern version of the story to be. But as it is, it's fine. It works. I would love to have a little bit more to it, but it works. And maybe, once again, more of a community issue than just like one guy who dislikes him. Okay, that is it from Adventure Comics 136, My Pal Superboy. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe, hit the bell icon to get notifications when a new video goes up. I do this Monday through Friday, but Friday is Bat Friday. We cover Batman story, Tech Comics or Batman. Until next time, let's ponder the question, whatever did happen to the boy of tomorrow? And just helping him not get in trouble in school doesn't fix like the overall problem that he's probably still going to have trouble finding a job later on with this Juvie stay on his record. Okay, have a great day.